Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm sharing a home blessing spell candle that I created. This isn't an actual tutorial, but I hope this can act as inspiration for you in your own magical practice. This candle can be used to bless your home, cleanse the space, and it makes a great magical housewarming gift. Spell candles are used in witchcraft and many other magical traditions. The great thing about making them yourself is you can truly customize them for your specific needs. You can add colors, oils, herbs, crystals, or symbols as you craft your candles to align with your magical goals. Most importantly, as you create your candle, you can infuse it with your intention. Making custom spell candles is really fun, and the one I'm making today is created using soy wax. I like soy because it's a natural wax that burns slower and cleaner and produces less soot than traditional paraffin wax. I started by weighing out my wax and slowly melting it in a double boiler system over medium-low heat. When thinking about making this candle, I considered what color I should choose to match my intention. I decided to make mine blue because it corresponds to house blessings, promotes peace and calm, and is a color of domestic harmony. These are all good things I'd like to have for this candle. I used a blue solid wax candle dye, and as I add in the color a little at a time, I am also adding my intention. I know it's hard to see here, but this is what the color looks like in the melted wax. Next, I added a scent, although this is optional. I chose a candle-safe fragrance oil called lemongrass sage. I'll leave a link to where I bought it down in the description. I chose this scent for a few reasons. I'm giving this candle to my sister and brother-in-law as a housewarming gift since they just recently moved into their new place, and I really think they will like the smell. However, the herbs also correspond to things I'm looking to bring in with this candle. Sage is good for protection, cleansing, and harmony, and lemongrass is good for cleansing, purifying, removing negativity, and dissolving obstacles. As I stirred the fragrance into the wax, I added my energy and intention and visualized the finished candle. After fully mixing in the fragrance, it was time to pour the wax into my containers. I'm actually making 3 candles, and I'm using metal tins that I've already attached the wicks to the bottom. I made sure to leave space at the top so there is room for the wick when the lid is put on. I used these special wick tools to keep the wicks in the center while the wax hardens, but you can use anything like a clothespin or pencils to keep the wick in place. I then set the candles off to the side and let the wax cool down and fully harden. I just left them for several hours while I worked on other things. For even more magic, I like to add some herbs to my candle, but to try to be as safe as possible, I choose to add a small amount to the top of the candle and not any inside the candle itself. So once the wax has fully cooled down, I used my crafting heat tool to carefully melt just the surface layer of wax so the ingredients will stick without falling deeper into the candle itself. The first herb I'm adding is some dried rosemary from my garden. This is added mainly for cleansing and protection. I used a mortar and pestle to grind it up into smaller pieces and added my intention as I did so. I then carefully sprinkled it around the outside edge of the candles, making sure not to add too much or to get too close to the wick. Next, I did the same thing with some dried rose petals, also from my garden. These are being added to encourage love to always be present in the home. These petals came from a yellow and pink gradient colored rose bush, and now that they're dried, the color isn't really as pretty anymore. But I didn't have any more of the red rose petals, and the intention is still there. The third herb I'm adding is chamomile. Chamomile is good for bringing abundance and calm into the home. I'm using some tweezers to help be able to pick up the chamomile and place each piece exactly where I want it to be on the candles. Because it can take time to add everything, I usually end up having to use the heat tool to remelt the surface a few times. I've cut those boring parts out of the video, but just thought I'd mention it so that you would know that that is common to need to do. After getting all the herbs on, I added a few lapis lazuli crystal chips. I held these in my hands and added my intention before adding them to the candles. A well-known magical property of lapis lazuli is strengthening bonds between friends and family. It promotes communication and good relationships and brings honesty and compassion, and is good for removing tension and stress. I think these are all great properties for a home blessing candle. I also like that the blue stones correspond with the blue color of the candle, so that works out well. Again, I'm using the tweezers to get these placed exactly where I want each one. I added 3 stones to each candle. I then remelt the tops of the candles one more time so I can add the last ingredient. This is a small sprinkling of a biodegradable glitter. I always prefer biodegradable glitter because I like to avoid the harmful microplastics of regular glitter that are so horrible for the environment, animals, and our own health. This is a teal blue color that I sometimes use for decorating the tops of my soaps I make. It adds a pretty shimmer that reflects and magnifies the energy of the candle, giving it an extra magical boost. This is how I sometimes use glitter in my practice, as like a ton of tiny mirrors that reflect and magnify the energies of the spell, making it more powerful. You can use any color, but if you have one that's corresponding to your intentions, it's even better. Next, it's time to trim the wicks to about 1/4 of an inch. I struggled with this because I couldn't find a sharp pair of scissors, and so the ones I had didn't want to cut through very cleanly. It worked out okay, but I highly recommend using a nice sharp pair of scissors to trim the wick neatly. I think the candles came out really nice. They're pretty, smell fantastic, and have a potent magical energy. However, there's one finishing touch they still need. I'm not selling these, but I designed and printed some pretty labels to put on the candle lids. To do this, I just used Canva, printed them on a glossy sticker paper, and then cut them out with my silhouette machine. I just stuck them to the center of the lids, and I think they look so much more professional and finished with the pretty labels. The very last step is to let the candles cure with the lids off for at least 5 days, but 2 weeks would be even better. This allows for the wax and fragrance to fully bind together and will result in a stronger scent throw when lit. Then I will be able to wrap one of these and gift it to my sister and brother-in-law for their new apartment. Thank you all so much for watching. Do you ever make your own spell candles? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Remember to always practice fire safety when burning any candles.